There's a really good argument that UFC 309 is the weakest pay-per-view card of the year, and today I'm going to be breaking down my main card and prelim predictions and breakdown for you guys for UFC 309. It's the pay-per-view card of all time. We're going to be jumping straight into it with Jonathon Martinez versus Marcus McGhee. 64% of you guys thought Martinez is going to win, and 36% thought McGhee. I'm personally going to be going with Jonathon Martinez on this one. The betting odds are kind of really close to a pick-em, but slight favorite for Marcus motherfucking McGhee. And this one's a banger. I'm actually really excited for this fight. I would have loved to see this in the main card instead of the ladies spot, but we're stuck with this in the prelims, and it is what it is. But Jonathon Martinez defending that top 15 spot against the rising motherfucking Marcus McGhee. This guy's dangerous as hell. Jonathon Martinez, obviously, I feel like got really put on the map in May. He does not get lucky with these pay-per-view cards. He went from 301 to 309, which I feel like are the two weakest cards of the year for pay-per-view wise, but it's all right. But Jonathon Martinez was on a 6-fight win streak before the Jose Aldo fight, and he looked good in that fight. It's just that Aldo was just kind of levels above in that one. He was just really piecing him up, and it's not that Martinez even looked bad. I mean, Martinez is definitely one of the better strikers in the bantamweight division, and honestly, I would say one of the best leg kickers in the UFC as a whole. I mean, if you're on a win streak like that and it comes to a halt via Jose Aldo, I mean, there's really not much shame in that. You could easily bounce back. I don't want to say easily because Marcus McGhee is not an easy opponent. I mean, he's 3-0 in the UFC now, and he's really well-rounded. He's definitely a better boxer, so the stand-up exchanges are going to be really interesting to see. I would say that he has the advantage on the ground, but don't count out Martinez, because I think he does have good defensive grappling. I think more than not, he's not going to try and get you down there, but I think it's improving. I think his fight IQ and his grappling are two things that I think we've seen slowly kind of improving over his past couple fights. Jonathon Martinez, that is. But I would still give McGhee the clear advantage down there. It's all about how much he learned from that Jose Aldo fight. And not just the mistakes he made in that fight, but just as a whole. You learn a lot when you face competition that's so great. And it's like they're throwing things at you've never seen before. I feel like you're really going to see fighters make or break after going against the elite. Like they're either going to hold their own up there, because like once you start to fight guys like that, it's hard to go back to kind of just fighting unranked or fighting like kind of bums. But McGhee is not that. I mean, McGhee's really dangerous and is clearly worthy of being in the top 15. It's just that bantamweight is fucking stacked, man. I feel like it definitely has the most killers outside of the top 15. Like, we're starting to see rising prospects start to really enter the rankings now in divisions like you got welterweight and middleweight, I feel like more so, flyweight as well. But bantamweight, it's just so hard to even get in there. So I feel like this is going to be a scrap. Things that hold me back from picking McGhee, the question marks that I have is like, what happens when he's going to get pulled into deep waters? I mean, against someone who's in the top 15, elite competition. Or another question, what happens when he does face elite competition? Because, he's 9-1 right now. He's been on a tear. All of his wins are by finish, I believe. And like, the kid's a fucking monster. He's young. Both of these guys are young. But McGhee just brings this like crazy, relentless pressure and pace. And like, what if he's not able to get Martinez out of there? I mean, I think Martinez is going to have to keep the distance, piece him apart, avoid McGhee's really big power shots. If you let McGhee control where the fight goes and controls the octagon, controls the pace, I mean, it's not going to be looking good for Martinez. McGhee's really going to try and close that distance between the two. But I like how Martinez has a really solid clinch game. And I mean, I feel like he does a really good job of mixing it up to the head and the body. And like I said earlier, I feel like each fight he's been showing improvement. So these two are young. They're getting the fuck after it. They're fighting for that top 15 spot. I'm going to be going with Jonathon Martinez. So moving on, Martin Tybura, the Apex King, bro. The undisputed Apex champion versus Jhonata Diniz. 65% of you guys thought Tybura is going to win. 35% thought Diniz. I'm going to be going with Jhonata Diniz on this one. He was supposed to be fighting Derek Lewis. What was that? At the Edmonton card, but Lewis pulled out. I forgot why, but now we're here. Martin Tybura stepped up, late notice. These two actually fought on the same card. It was the fight card of all time. It was the night Lucas fucking Tracy retired because it was that bad of a card, dog. It was shit, all right? It was Tybura versus Spivak 2, and we had to all sit through that shit. That was actually the first fight card I've genuinely fallen asleep through, so that was rough. But both Diniz and Tybura fought on that same card. Obviously, Tybura was the main event, but lost to Spivak via finish. Was it a sub? I believe it was a sub. Really didn't have any good moments in that fight, especially for how short it lasted. So Tybura really needs a fucking win. I respect him for stepping in on this one, but I think that also goes to show, like, even though this guy is the fucking NPC blob of the heavyweights, he has no personality. There's nothing there. Half of his fights are fucking Apex decisions. So he's kind of just there right now in the division. Like, even people are talking about Sergey Spivak more than this guy. Like, And I feel, it's kind of rough because I think Tybura does kind of get an overly shit on rep. I mean, I definitely don't help in that. I shit on the guy. I just see nothing in him. Like, I'm never excited for a Martin Tybura fight. You know what I'm saying? I never am listening to a Martin Tybura interview. But I do think that he's not as bad as some people think. Or I shouldn't even say that. I guess I should say he does deserve a little more credit because he does go out there and he does get finishes from time to time. And he's not bad. Like, he's solid on the feet and he's solid on the ground. The thing is, he's just not great. And when you're going against Jhonata Diniz, who's 8-0 overall, 3-0 in the UFC. Wait, 2-0 in the UFC. Sorry, because I always fuck up the Contender Series and all that shit. But he's a former Glory kickboxer, so I feel like he's going to have the edge on the feet. I mean, his last performance was against, I believe, Carl Williams, and he took him to a decision, but he got the better of him in that. And I mean, yeah, Williams got him down a couple times, but he actually showed good takedown defense. And when you're going against Diniz, who is primarily a kickboxer and is going to want to really keep the fight standing, it's good to know that he has the takedown defense, because Tybura, I feel like, is going to try and get the fight to the ground. Is he just going to be spamming fucking takedowns like Chimaev? No, but I feel like he knows that's where he's going to want to take the fight. He's going to want to bring Diniz into deep waters. He's going to want to make him quit in there. And I think I could see a finish for both of these guys. If it's from Tybura, I think it's going to be via a sub. I just think for a heavyweight, he doesn't have the hardest hit. He doesn't have the hardest hits. And for Diniz, I feel like I could see him take his lights out. Like, it's not easy to just take out Carl Williams, so the fact that he took him to a decision, it was still a good win. I mean, Williams, I believe, was undefeated in the UFC prior to that, so people get it a little bit twisted about Tybura, but so I'm not just trying to count him out. I mean, you guys, 65%, you guys think he's going to win. I'm very curious what the betting odds are going to be as the time I'm recording this. I don't know. They'll be on your screen, though, but yeah, there's definitely a few question marks for Diniz. Don't get me wrong, because he is only 3-0 in the UFC, but we're going to have to see how he handles a top 10, top 15 opponent, and that comes in the form of Martin Tybura, and B, how can he go on the ground against a top 10, top 15 opponent? And Tybura, I don't want to say he specializes in that shit. The only thing this guy specializes in is either putting you to sleep or fucking being the first one in line at KFC, bro. But it is what it is. I'm going to be going with Jhonata Diniz. I'm glad this fight got made in general, because the card was just getting worse and worse, especially we just had a couple of them canceled last week. Who knows how many more will get canceled in the fight week. So we need all the fucking help we can get for this card. So moving on, we have Jim Miller versus Damon Jackson, the battle of the old heads. Now, obviously, Miller is coming off of that insane loss to Bobby Green. He absolutely just pieced him up, I believe, for all just 3 rounds. Miller got absolutely fucking battered. The pictures of his goddamn face afterwards were something out of a fucking horror movie. And the question is, like, where is Jim Miller going to go from here? Because I feel like I wouldn't be surprised at all if he retires after this fight. Even if Damon Jackson retired after this fight, I wouldn't be surprised. I feel like we're going to see a few retirements on this card, to be honest. We got a lot of old heads on this card. So we got Paul Craig, we got Stipe, we got John, we got these two, and there's more. So talking about these two guys, though, I mean, Jim Miller is still a fucking machine. He's all of his wins since 2016 have been via finish. I mean, he goes out there and you can't take anything away from the guy because he brings it every fucking time. He's a literal definition of the just bleed guy. He's been around since then too. So at this point in his career, I mean, I believe he has some kind of record. It's either the most wins or the most fights, but I always get him and Cowboy fucked up because I know it's those two. But with all due respect to Miller, he is solid on the feet and he's solid on the ground. Obviously, again, it's not that elite level. It's not his fault. Dude's old as hell, but he's still in it, man. And he brings that sort of intensity still to every fight. Like, he could put on the pace. He can get you pressured up in there, and let's see if he can control the cage. Let's see if he can control the momentum of this fight, because Damon Jackson, I feel like, is going to present some problems for him. He is the slight favorite in this fight. I do think Jim Miller has the advantage in the grappling, but I would give the advantage in the striking. Actually, I don't really know who you'd fucking give the advantage in the striking to. I feel like they're both probably on the same level. Maybe I'm talking about my ass in this one, but I don't know. But for Damon Jackson, what I think he's going to have to do, he's going to go after there, and he's going to have to close the distance against Miller. Don't let Miller control the pace and the swing of the fight. Don't allow Miller, if this fight does get to the ground, avoid giving him the dominant positions, all right? I know that Jackson is pretty solid on the ground himself, but you just don't want to give Miller the edge where it needs to be. You know what I'm saying? And then finally, I mean, he has to try and wear Jim out. I mean, who knows how much Miller's recovered since his last performance. He could be fucking set. He could be all good and go in there and he's gonna kill this guy, or he could still be feeling the wear and tear. I mean, who knows? Especially at the age you get older and older. And Miller's been in some fucking wars, so I say Jackson's gonna have to go out there. He's really gonna have to try and put on the good pace. He's gonna have to try and really wear him out, make him not want to be in there. I mean, break the guy. I mean, what else does Jim Miller have to prove? So go out there and break him. I don't know. I'm gonna be going with Damon Jackson on this one. I'm very hesitant, though. I really don't know who to pick. Honestly, out of all these fights, this is actually the one I'm most indecisive about. I don't know if that's mental or not. But yeah, I'm going to be going with Damon Jackson. So moving on to the last of the prelims, we have Chris Weidman versus Eryk Anders. This is the fight of all time, and I'm so fucking glad it got moved off the main card. When I saw that this was the main card opener, I'm not even going to talk about the WMMA fight, by the way, but I saw when these two were the first two fights on the main card, I'm like, we are fucked. Who wants to sit through this shit, all right? I mean, if you're a New Yorker, I can understand why you want to hype up Chris Weidman, you know, all due respect. But, and Weidman, former champ, I respect the guy, but definitely not one of my favorites on the roster. Like, when I listen to this guy, and I know he does, like, the weigh-in shows, and I've heard him, like, with his interviews, and, you know, obviously I've seen his performances. Like, I'm just not the biggest fan of the guy. I don't dislike him, but he's kind of just there for me right now, and I could tell that he's on the tail end of his career. This is another guy I could see retire after this one, because he hasn't been looking great in his past few fights ever since the fucking destructive leg injury that he had to undergo with Uriah Hall. I mean, and that's not his fault. He got fucked up. The fact that he was involved with 2 of those for his entire career, out of the 4 that have ever happened in the entire history of the UFC, it's just super unlucky. So in that regard, I do feel bad for him. He kind of had his career kind of pulled under the rug for him, but he's 3-6 since he did lose the belt to Rockhold in 2015. Obviously, his last win was over Bruno Silva, but that was really fucking controversial. I mean, again, he wasn't looking great in that fight. He had a shit ton of eye pokes, and then he literally got an eye poke TKO. And Silva was super pissed about it. I mean, I would be too. It was a really shitty way to end the fight, and I don't even know if I'd really call it a win. Probably more of a disqualification more than anything, or a no contest, but they gave Weidman the win. It's pretty weird. But so if he's getting rocks thrown through his window from Bruno Silva, I wouldn't fucking blame him. But then on the other hand, you have Eryk Anders. He's 2-3 in his last 3. And I don't think I said this, but I'm going to be going with Eryk Anders to win this fight. It seems pretty clear to me. I mean, Weidman is 40, I believe, and he's not going to get any smarter. He's not going to get any faster. He's not going to get any stronger. You know, I don't really see him taking this one. And I mean, Weidman's going to want to try and take this fight to the ground. I know he hasn't been that successful at actually getting his opponents down there in his last few fights, but therein lies the whole problem, you know what I mean? Because Eryk Anders does have solid takedown defense, 79%, so that's looking good for him. And if this fight does keep it standing, I mean, I could just see Eryk Anders piecing him the fuck up. I mean, I could see him finding the right shot and maybe taking his lights out even. I don't know the last time that Chris Weidman has been finished. Let me pull this up here. Hasn't really been finished since Dominic Reyes in 2019. I mean, if I'm not counting the Uriah Hall like fuck up. But yeah, so it is hard to kind of take his lights out, but I could see Eryk Anders getting it done. I think he's going to win regardless, decision or not. Just depends how Weidman's going to be able to hold up in there at his age. How good is his chin? How good is he going to be able to keep up the pace? Is he going to be able to get this fight to the ground? Is he going to be able to hold his own in the striking exchanges? Because I don't really see any of those things happening. Last time I checked the betting odds, I believe that Eryk Anders was kind of like a slight favorite, nothing too big. I honestly thought Weidman would have been a bigger dog. Maybe I'm just shitting on Weidman, guys. Maybe I'm just fucking overlooking the hell out of him. I don't mean to just shit on him. If you're a Weidman fan, I really do apologize. But I just don't like his chances in this fight, all right? Something in the air, man. I just don't see him taking this one. So I'm going to be going with Eryk Anders. I can maybe see a finish, but I think he's going to be taking it via unanimous decision. So moving on. Up next, finally moving on to the main card, we have Mauricio Ruffy versus James Llontop. 0-2 in the UFC, and so 91% of you guys think that Ruffy's going to take this, and 9% thought it's going to be the other way around. And I'm sorry for that 9%, because I feel like Mauricio Ruffy is the lock of the card. If there's any lock of the card, even though there's Jones is a big favorite, Oliveira later is a big favorite, Nickal is a big favorite. I mean, there are large favorites here on this card, but I think if there's anyone that this is the lock, it's Mauricio Ruffy. I mean, respect to this other guy because he's 0-2 in the UFC. He is respectfully a jabroni. He's a jobber. And I've never seen this dude fight. I went back and saw some of the tape because I didn't know who he fucking was. And I'm like, okay, well, if he's going to fight Ruffy, I feel like I should probably know a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But from what I did watch, it's nothing great. I really do respect the guy and you guys can call me a fucking casual. I don't give a shit, all right? I don't know who this motherfucker is. But yeah, when I looked into it, it was nothing crazy and nothing impressive. And there's a reason he's 0-2. I'm glad that Ruffy finally has an opponent. I know that people, even though there were talks of him not even being on the card anymore because his opponent pulled out, I'm glad that they were able to find someone. So I do respect this guy, jabroni or not, all right, for stepping in. And now they're on the main card opener. So big opportunity, especially for Mauricio Ruffy. I'm really glad this one got moved to the opener instead of Weidman versus Anders, because that's the first fucking thing everybody wanted to see, all right? You got this fucking pretty-ass fight card, and the first the opener is the Weidman versus Anders fight. Ruffy is going to go out there, and he's going to put on, I don't want to say a masterclass, but he's going to go get that fucking finish. And if he doesn't, I feel like it's just going to be kind of a letdown because like Llontop's being fed to the fucking wolves here, all right? Thrown to the slaughterhouse. And Ruffy, part of the fighting nerds. I mean, we just saw Prats with an insane performance last night, an amazing win. I mean, the fighting nerds, the camp as a whole, I mean, they're on a fucking roll. They're on a tear. And I feel like Ruffy is probably the least well known out of the four of them, the four big ones that are kind of like controlling that camp right now. You have Gene Silva, Kai Barajo, and Carlos Prats kind of leading the way. And with Mauricio, Ruffy has only had 2 fights in the UFC, and one of them was on the Contender Series. So I get kind of why he's lesser known than all the rest of them, but I feel like he's going to put himself on the map with this one. I know the opponent caliber isn't the best, but people are calling this guy the lightweight Conor McGregor, and even looks kind of fucking like him. So I'm supporting this guy. He has a really fun style. I mean, he's got fast hands, great precision, sharp counters. He's got a great kickboxing background. So I'm really excited to see this guy fight. I mean, I know that there's still some questions about the ground game, but the fighting nerds, I mean, we saw how Prats did so well defending the takedowns against McGhee, and he knew, I mean, we all knew that McGhee was going to try and go out there and take Prats to the fucking ground, and we know that Prats, even though Prats has good takedown defense, he's not a grappler. So obviously McGhee was just going to try and take him down there, take him to deep waters. Motherfucker didn't even get him the fucking touching the gloves at the start of the fight, bro. And Prats was like, all right, I'm fucking your ass up, bro. You ain't taking me to the ground. I'm taking you below the dirt. So he went out there with a great win. And so my whole point with this whole fucking Prats ramble is that they will prepare people who are primarily strikers to be sound on the ground. I mean, we didn't really see the fight actually get down there too much against McGhee. So, and with Ruffy, I mean, I'm not trying to just say Ruffy equals Prats. Ruffy equals McGregor. He's his own fucking guy. But the future is so bright for him. He's young. He's hungry. He's a great striker. He's entertaining for the fans. He has an exciting style. And he's 10-1. So, and he's part of arguably like the team of the year right now. So yeah, there are some question marks, but the fighting nerds, my whole point with that shit was that I feel like they're preparing him not only defensive grappling wise, but also offensively. Like they're gonna have to prepare him for what's gonna happen down there. Maybe not as much for this fight because I feel like they're going to be looking for a round 1 finish, and that's what I'm going to be going with. Mauricio, Ruffy via some sort of round 1 finish. Taking his fucking lights out. How fast does it happen? I don't know. But I'm going to be going with Mauricio, Ruffy on this one. But again, respect to Llontop for stepping in on this one. Motherfucker's got balls. So moving on to Bo Nickal versus Paul Craig. 79% of you guys think that Nickal's going to take this one, and 21% think Paul Craig. I am going to be agreeing with you guys. I'm going to be going with Bo Nickal on this one. I can already see John Anik going, Bo Nickal is on the rise, coming to a top 15 near you. I could literally hear Anik saying that already, bro. Now, I'm not trying to count out Paul Craig because I know that he is dangerous. I know what Paul Craig, I mean, people forget, man. Not to sound, I sound like Rogan now. I'm doing the whole commentary team, but people forget, man. I mean, Craig could take you out at any time. And the thing is, I mean, I know Joe can be fucking so repetitive, full of bullshit on commentary, but he is right in this case in regards to Craig, because I feel like losing to Paul Craig almost shows that you're good in a way that's better than if you actually go and beat Craig, okay? Because Craig is beating Nikita Krylov, he's beating Jamal Hill, Magomed Ankalaev, like people that are top dogs, like, have lost to Paul Craig out of fucking nowhere. So I feel like if you beat Paul Craig, it's almost like you're less good than if you lose to him. But anyway, so I feel like Nickal's gonna take this one. For me, the biggest question in this fight, the two biggest questions, one, who's going to have the better striking exchanges? Because I would lean towards Paul Craig. Paul Craig is not a great striker by any means in the goddamn world. But the thing is with Bo Nickal, I don't think Bo's great either. I would give the power advantage on the ground and on the feet to Bo, obviously. But in terms of just technique, precision, I feel like both these two are probably in the same league of striking. Like, we just don't know as much about Bo's striking as we do with Craig. I mean, Craig is so much more experienced. I mean, what is Bo, like 6 or 7-0? So the experience level, there's a huge gap in this fight between these two, but we'll see who's able to control the octagon, control the flow of the the exchanges on the feet. I think Bo's got the power up there, but I think I think Craig has the experience, and let's just see who can apply it. And my second question is Bo, when it finally does get down to the ground, all right, and we start to get in these grappling exchanges, is Bo just going to try and control him? Because that could be a way different fight versus if he tries to go and take him out, okay? Because Bo Nickal, I feel like, out of so many fighters on the roster, I mean, you could argue Sean O'Malley is above him, but I feel like this guy has the most pressure on him, almost more than anybody on the roster. I mean, we saw even after he handled that the UFC 300 performance. I mean, he was on the mic and he's like, I'm sorry, guys, like, I wanted to go out there, and like, you could tell that he just has all this pressure. And I know especially UFC 300 might be different because it's the biggest pay-per-view of all fucking time, and it was super controversial because, like, he was put on the main card and, like, people were like, he doesn't deserve this, why is Bo Nickal on the main card, blah, blah, blah. And, like, I feel like that definitely did not help. So he probably feel like he really needed to go out there and just fucking take out Brundage, whether on the feet or on the ground. The fact that it even lasted over 2 rounds, I feel like personally like dug at Bo, but that's not good because like I get that a lot of these athletes, they put pressure on themselves, they want better for themselves, you know, we saw Gillian Robertson last night, like she went out there and fucking fucked her opponent up bad, dominated her. And afterwards, she's saying, like, yeah, I need to go out there. Like, I don't feel good about it. I need to finish. And, like, I hold myself to higher standards. Like, most fighters are going to want to hold themselves to higher standards, right? Even if they get wins or losses, whatever, like, they're going to be hard on themselves, and, like, that's part of what makes them so fucking great and elevates them, like, so when they do get higher. But the thing is, with Bo, I feel like it's different because he's just so young, and he's very inexperienced when it comes to MMA, and, I mean, wrestling, especially American wrestling, is almost as good as it gets, but in terms of just MMA, I mean, he still is 6-7-0. I mean, this guy's a huge prospect. I feel like he's going to be fighting for the top 15 next year, especially if he gets past Paul Craig, but there's still, like, question marks with him. I mean, I know he's great, but he's also just, we haven't seen him really fight elite competition at all. I mean, Paul Craig is a big step up in competition for sure, but he's obviously on the tail end of his career, and it's not a top 15 opponent. I mean, I like this fight, to be honest. I think that this matchup is really good for both of these guys. I mean, it goes to show that, like, Paul Craig can go out there and fraud check Nickal. That's 100% a possibility. I mean, it can show that he's still in it despite the older age. And Bo Nickal, like, he's finally getting a big name on his record, all right? Just not people like opponents that are stepping in on a week notice or people that are kind of on a skid in the UFC, like, or Cody fucking Brundage, you know what I mean? So, and like I was saying earlier, if Bo just tries to control him, I feel like this will be a pretty easy win for him. I say easy relatively. I'm not trying to fucking count out Paul Craig. I'm sorry, guys. All right, they're all monsters, but I feel like it will be a pretty easy win if Bo is just going out there with the intent, all right, I'm just going to hold this guy against the fence or hold this guy on the ground. I'm going to try and get in good positions and just fucking keep him down here. And as soon as the next round starts, I'm going to do the same thing, get him down and just do it over again, okay? That's going to be a very different fight versus if Bo wants to go out there and put on a fucking statement, okay? Because I feel like that's what he's going to want to do. I feel like he's going to want to go out there and really just put on the pressure, all right? Try and really get him to the ground and do something with it and try and get the finish down there. Not just holding him down, but trying to advance positions, move forward, and really try and, you know, get the sub. I could also see Bo Nickal getting a knockout here. I mean, I feel like this fight's more likely to end in a finish than a decision. But if Bo just tries to control him and sit on him, it's a pretty smooth sailing win. But this is where I'm going to mix in the pressure thing with the controlling of the fight thing, okay? So keep in mind all of the pressure and all of the shit going through Bo's head, all right? Hypothetically, sorry, I'm not trying to just shit on the dude, the NPC of the middleweight division, but not trying to just shit on him. But if he feels pressured enough, all right, and isn't thinking straight, even like one lapse in judgment, and then he's like, you know, moving a bit too quick or making the wrong move on the ground, Paul could take his fucking lights out down there and get him in a bad position, and then it could be over like that. We've seen it before with Paul Craig. Like, one slip up, one lapse in judgment, one hesitation, and then the fight is over, and then the person that's on top of Craig and just beat him the whole fucking time, now they lost. So Bo is probably going to have to be 100% this entire fight. If Bo feels super pressured to get a finish, you know, and he's making bad decisions, Paul could take him out. I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think Nickal's going to come in here prepared. I mean, I don't know. I do want to see him fight at least twice next year, though. I'm hoping with a win over Paul Craig, it's kind of like, okay, we're getting more wins. All right, let's get him a ranked opponent after this one, I feel like. Or at least someone, maybe like a Shara Magomedov. But even he, I think, just entered the fucking rankings. But overall, I'm going to be going with Bo Nickal. I think he's going to be getting a sub or a knockout in this one. Not sure which. But if you want to cash on Paul Craig, those are nice odds. I wouldn't blame you at all. Throwing $10 on that can get you pretty far. But up next, the co-main. We're going to be getting into the fucking big ones now. All right, we got Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. 79% of you guys think Oliveira's going to win, and 21% think Michael Chandler. Now, I made a video breaking down what I think about the main and the co-main and who I'm going with, but if you want to watch that, please feel free. It's on my channel a video or two ago, but I'm going to be going with Michael Chandler on this one via a round 1 knockout. Now, I just rewatched the first fight, the other day, and there's a few things that I really took away from it now that we're going into this next one, but before we even get to that, the biggest thing, I'm going with Chandler, okay? Why? But I want to get the negative out of the way first. The biggest thing that holds me back from picking Chandler, other than the fact that Oliveira is literally the second or third most dangerous fucking lightweight in the planet right now. So, other than that, the fact that Chandler has been dialed in on McGregor for the better part of 2.5 years, just locked in on one opponent, all right? Multiple dates. So you're having to go through all the stress of that. Like, okay, now you're fighting McGregor this day. But despite all of the bullshit he was dealing with, all right, he's going on WWE calling out McGregor and shit, literally. Like, you're locked in on one person. And then when all of a sudden, you know, the rug gets pulled underneath you and you finally decide, okay, I want to fucking move on now. And you're fighting Charles Oliveira. You know, like I said, second or third most dangerous lightweight on the entire fucking planet. I mean, it's scary because I feel like if you're at least prepping for a guy like Charles for 2 years, that would help you a lot. Like if you're prepared for someone like him, because the difference between Oliveira and fucking McGregor styles are light and day. So Chandler, I know he has literally the worst fight IQ. It's one of the worst fight IQs in MMA history. Jesus Christ. I know oh my God, I'm just starting this prediction by just shitting on Chandler, but his fight IQ is also something I really have to worry about. I mean, this guy literally could have been championship, or at the very least, very, very elite level. Not that he isn't, but if he had a better fight IQ, he could have retained so much more. I mean, he would have won the Justin Gaethje fight. It was arguably 1-1 going into that third, and the third was close, but he's fucking just putting his arms down and fucking spitting up blood and doing the whole Rocky versus Mr. T shit. And it's just like, we don't need that. Chandler could have won that fight. He had great moments against Dustin Poirier. Arguably took that first round, knocked out Dan Hooker and Tony Ferguson. I mean, he almost beat Oliveira himself in their first fight, and then it just got to the second round. Charles survived, and then he took his lights out, vice versa. So Chandler has had such great moments in the UFC, but he could just never pull it together, and his fight IQ just lets him down. All he's here to do is fucking please the fans. Now, my point with this, all right, even the Conor shit, Chandler's 38. He's had 2.5 years. I think he's fucking kind of learned his lesson, okay? I think he knows that this is his only shot left, okay? If he loses this one, he's got a lot of losses on his UFC record, and all of his losses are against the very, very elite. What, there's like shame in losing to Oliveira twice, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, more and more. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. It's as elite of competition as it gets, but I think he knows that it's just, this is ride or die for him. I mean, what's he gonna do after this? Fight Holloway for the BMF title, and then when he loses that, he's just fucking done. He's gonna have to go fight Jabronis. He's gonna have to fight James Llontop next. But Chandler's 38, and I know that that's not great at lightweight to be up there in age. Maybe he's 37, but I think he's really going to learn from the last 2 years. Like, I think he's going to be able to adapt to Oliveira's style. I think he's going to be able to let go of the McGregor shit. He was probably already so fed up with it by the time we even hit this summer. That was probably his breaking point. I mean, it clearly was. So I think he's going to go into this fight with a bit of a more mature mindset, not trying to please the fans as much, being more composed, actually applying this fancy fucking thing called fight IQ, and going and showing what he's made of, because Oliveira has the clear grappling advantage, especially in the jiu-jitsu side of things. I know Chandler's primarily more of a wrestler, but he never even gets it down there. I mean, we saw that fucking dope takedown that dope takedown against Gaethje, a few other spots, but other than that, like, he really doesn't take it to the ground that much unless he really, really feels like he needs to, but he could definitely hold his own down there when he needs it to be, but I don't see this fight going to the ground unless Charles is fucking taking him there, is my whole point. Chandler's going to want to keep this one on the feet. He's going to want to stand and bang, all right? He's going to want to make this a sober, drunk bar fight, and I like his chances when it gets to that kind of slugger fight, because Chandler is going to have the power advantage. Oliveira is strong as fuck, though, especially over the past few years. He's just been getting bigger and bigger. Chandler's also fucking big. I know he's a little bit, a little short, a little stocky, but, motherfucker's a tank. Both of these guys are, and Chandler, I can see just taking his lights out in that first round, because applying what I said earlier. So, like I said, I just rewatched the first fight the other day, right? It's an amazing fight. Go and watch it if you haven't. Especially, it'll get you extra excited for this one. But there's no things I noticed about that, like, Chandler just looked great in that fight. And I mean, I know that I want to preface that I know this was like, 2 or 3 years ago, so it's a long time. Both of these guys are at very different points in their career, okay? I mean, Chandler hasn't had much of a career since then, but I mean, literally been on the couch. But it's just like, Oliveira had his back, twice at least. And who survives getting out of those kinds of scrambles or exchanges? Like, when Oliveira has your back, all right, most of the time you're fucked. Most of the time you're not getting out, and that's the part where he goes, squeezes your head off, and then he goes and he gets the fucking dope little celebration, and he's going to take pictures with Joe Rogan after, all right? But Chandler survived that, all right? He made it to the next round. He survived the adversity on the ground that Oliveira threw at him, and then he went back and he got knocked out, which is fucking absurd, Oliveira does have power behind his hands, all right? His striking has improved so much over the past few years, so he's a real solid striker, but the thing is, that's not primarily his style. So the fact that he took out Chandler like that, I feel like I just don't know if that's going to happen twice. Like, if Oliveira's going to beat him, it's not going to be a decision. This fight is 5 rounds and is one of the most exciting fights of the year. I know it doesn't make much sense rankings-wise, but in terms of just pure excitement, this is going to be one of the most fun fights of the year. So it's not going 5 rounds. This is not going to a decision. Oliveira, I can't see knocking him out again. So if he does take Chandler out, I think he's just going to be able to get the sub. But in regards to Chandler, like, I think he has the power. He's going to come out like a bat out of hell. He's one of the strongest lightweights in the division. Charles does get chinned pretty easily. Like, he's knocked downable, okay? But the hard part is taking him out, because, yeah, he gets knocked down, but most of the time, he's able to get back up. I mean, either opponents fall him to the ground, and then that's a fucking mistake, or they just let him up, and then Oliveira's back in your face. I mean, these two are some of the most aggressive, in-your-face fighters on the entire roster, pound for pound. And they're both going to try and be taking each other's heads off. Now, I could just see Chandler, though, if he's more composed, I don't want to see him do this tie to Ivasa versus Jarino Rosenstrike shit, right? Where you're usually a powerhouse that's fearing in the first round, and now you're trying to be all technical, and you want to go the distance, and you're trying to pitter-patter. Chandler cannot afford to pitter-patter in this fight. When I say applying his fight IQ, I mean not going out there and being fucking mental, making stupid-ass decisions for the fans. I mean, he still can have the power and land the big shots and get the better of Oliveira on the feet and take his lights out without just being fucking moronic about it. Is moronic a word? I meant to say moronic, like moronic, but I don't think that's a word. I'm retarded. Okay, I'm sorry. Now, Charles on the other end, I feel like I've been talking about Chandler for most of this, but Oliveira is so fucking dangerous, even at this point in age. He has the age advantage. He's younger going into this, and he's been riding higher of highs, whereas Chandler's kind of been on the couch worrying about fucking a bunch of bullshit. Like, at least Oliveira's been in there, and he's still been fighting, and I feel like that's going to help him in this case. I don't think this is going to be a Covington ring rust situation. Like, I think that Chandler's going to be able to go out there and still keep up cardio-wise, on the feet. Like, I feel like he's going to be able to hold his own, but Charles has been in there, and he's been fighting fucking wars or getting good performances. I mean, had a really close fight with Saryukin, and yeah, he lost to Makhachev, where, you know, he usually destroys motherfuckers, but other than that, he's looked unbelievable, Rogan head ass for the past few years. Oliveira is going to be in his fucking face. He's going to try, I mean, Oliveira's going to be able to hold his own on the feet. They're going to go back and forth. One might knock the other down, vice versa, whatever the hell's going to happen, but Oliveira's going to bring forth the pace, the pressure. I think he has the cardio advantage. He obviously has the advantage on the ground. But it's all about if he can apply it. I mean, maybe he could take Chandler's lights out, you know? If he gets Chandler to the ground, like, yeah, Chandler, you know, was able to get out of the back positions their first fight. But obviously, like, who knows what's going to happen in the second fight? Anything could happen. It could be a wildly different fight. I could see it just being overall a very similar fight, though, except Chandler actually gets him out of there. Now, I could see Oliveira getting the sub easily on this one, but overall, I'm going to be going with Michael Chandler. I think this is way more competitive than people think. Obviously, if Chandler goes out there and gets fucking smoked in like a round, then this is going to age like milk. But I'm standing on this one. Like, I believe in this one, okay? I'm not, like, putting $1 million fucking dollars that Chandler's going to win, but yes, I am betting money, so please help me. But I'm just saying that I think this fight's pretty competitive. They both have the edge on each other in certain regards, but obviously Oliveira has more advantages overall. So if you're picking Charles, most people are, that's probably the smart move. But honestly, I'm feeling Chandler by finish on this one. So moving on to finally the main event of all fucking time. Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. Can't believe we got this one. Shout out Dana for doing the right thing, hyping up Tom all these last few months. I'm so excited. Undisputed champ versus Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. All right, so let's fucking get into this one. Okay, so this is a pretty frustrating main event. I'm really not excited for this one at all. The only thing I'm excited about is that I think that Stipe is going to win. If Stipe can actually fucking take out Jones, then this fight and all this bullshit and all this buildup will be so worth it. Stipe will retire. Tom will be promoted to undisputed champ. Jones is either going to retire or be the challenger, and I don't like his odds in that fight, especially if he's coming off a knockout and is the challenger. So let's root for Stipe here. I'm going to be going with Stipe Miocic. 69% of you guys think that Jones is going to win, and 31% think that Miocic is going to win. Yeah, man, I'm going to be going with Stipe by this one by finish. I could see a third round knockout come from Stipe now. The thing is, why I'm going with Stipe, he's going to need to put on the pace and the pressure if he's in the volume if he's going to want to win this fight. If he goes out there and lets Jones make it look easy, if Jones just gets the takedown right away, if Jones has a Gone type performance, like, you can't let Jones control where the fight goes, whether that be controlling the distance, controlling the octagon, whether the fight stays on the feet or on the ground. Like, he cannot allow that shit to happen, okay? Stipe hasn't always had the greatest speed. He's never been known for his speed, okay, especially at heavyweight. And I could see with the layoff and him getting older, his speed's not going to get better, whereas Jones is going to be able to translate that light heavyweight skill up to heavyweight, and that's where that kind of worries me, because Jones is fucking quick. You know, you saw how quick he was going against Gon. For how short-lived that fight was, especially the exchanges on the feet, like, he was looking quick. So Stipe is really going to have to go out there and try and be the one that's controlling shit, okay? Do not allow John to fucking go out there and just have his way with you, because he said in interviews that he wants to just make this look easy. He's been prepared for Stipe for a year and a half or two. Stipe's been doing the same to John. I mean, John's coming off an injury. Stipe's coming off a layoff. So, and I mean, both these guys are on the older end. I mean, everyone's talking about how Stipe's old as fuck and has ring rust. I mean, Jones hasn't fought in almost 2 years himself. And on top of that, he didn't fight for 3 years before that. And he's coming off a torn pec injury where he was out for like, what, 8 to 12 months? So it's just like, both of these guys are compromised in their own regards coming into this fight, which makes it better that it's at heavyweight, because heavyweight always has that fucking question mark, like, who knows what's going to happen? They're heavyweights. But really, though, I mean, it does make sense in this case. And if Stipe can go out there, hold his own on the feet, do not allow Jones to fucking take you to the ground, okay? Especially early on. Like, if Jones is going out there in that first round or two and he's taking Stipe down, that's not good, all right? That's really not good. I think Stipe is going to look better as the fight goes. This is going to be like a fucking Khalil Roundtree situation, and then everyone's going to be like, whoa, like, Stipe actually really held his own. He really is the heavyweight go. And then Dana in the post-fight press interview is going to be like, yeah, you guys are idiots. Yeah, what was the question? Yeah, I told you guys. This is the heavyweight go versus the heavyweight go, all right? We told you guys that Stipe was going to go out there and be able to hold his own. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. But I think Stipe really is going to look better as the fight progresses. That's why I said that I think he's going to take this via a round 3 knockout specifically. But he can't let Jones take him to the ground those first 2 rounds, because not only is the sub threat really dangerous, because Jones has been looking fucking strong at heavyweight. I know, again, he only had like 3 minutes of octagon time in there, but I also know that Gon has not a good ground game. But despite that, still, I mean, it was a really good win. You can't let John take you down. Don't let him bully your son. Don't let him take you down, because it's not only the threat of the sub, but it just sets the tone of the fight. Like, oh my, it's like, you know how Miocic when he fought Ngannou, when there was that specific moment where he wasn't able to stuff Ngannou's takedowns, and then it was just a sense of defeat from Miocic for the rest of the fight before he got knocked out. You can't allow that to happen again, okay? John has so much more to lose in this situation. There's so much more pressure on him than this. Everybody's fucking overlooking Stipe. Everyone's shitting on this fight. Like, if Jones loses his entire GOAT reputation, like, Jones is trying to win this fight out of fear, okay? He doesn't want to lose his GOAT reputation. He doesn't want to fight Aspinall. He fucking wants to take favorable matchups like Miocic and Pereira. You could tell that there's just a sense of, like, fear in the way he's approaching these fights. And, like, if that could translate to in the cage and there's all this extra pressure, I mean, one lapse in judgment, I mean, Stipe can land the right shot and take his lights out. And I could really see that being a possibility, especially in, like, the second, third, fourth, you know, if the fight even gets to a 5th round, that maybe. But I like Stipe's chances as the fight progresses. I know he's older, but Stipe has real solid cardio. I know so does Jones, but I feel like Jones' best chances are going to be in those first 2 rounds. Stipe's having like a Rocky 4 montage where he's just like in the, but like the firefighter version. And then you have Jones being like the Drago, all the needles and shit and all that. Like, it's so fucking funny how this whole thing is playing out. If Stipe can just make Jones as uncomfortable as possible, you know, keep him guessing, put forward that volume, you know, try and land that really good power shot, because Jones, yeah, he hasn't been finished, or yeah, he hasn't lost in general, but I mean, at this point, there's something in the air, dude, okay? I brought this up in like my breakdown for this fucking fight. Like, over the past 3 years, ever since COVID, like 2021, Juliana Pena over Amanda Nunes, huge upset. 2022, Leon Edwards over Kamaru Usman, huge upset. 2023, Strickland over Izzy, huge upset. And that was all in like the later end of each year. There's a curse that's been going on, all right? COVID fucked up something in the air, and for some reason in the latter half of every year, there's just some huge fucking upset that doesn't make any sense, but it happens. Not that it doesn't make any sense, but it's just like, I think that might happen either in this or the Chandler fight. Like, I think it's gonna happen. There's gonna be a big upset in one of them, and I think this might go down the Miocic fight. Like, there hasn't been that big upset, all right? And like I said, COVID fucked something up, all right? This curse is real, and I think it's going to stay true. There's not like a big fight that's going to happen in December for it, so I believe in this curse. And I could see Miocic getting this one fucking done. The striking exchanges between these two are going to be pretty interesting. You know, Jones could be a bit more technical, but that's why, again, I think it just helps Stipe even more to go out there and really kind of control the cage. Jones is going to want to take this fight to the ground so fucking bad. Stipe is going to want to do the opposite so fucking bad. It's a battle of styles. It's a battle of wills. It's a battle of, like, who's going to want this more. I mean, Jones is defending his GOAT legacy, and Stipe is trying to just go out there and shut everybody the fuck up, and he's going to have a nice, undisputed heavyweight belt in that firehouse. So I'm going to be going with Stipe Miocic on this one. I'm saying round 3 finish. Thank you guys so very much for watching the UFC 309 prelim main card predictions. We're almost at 300 subs. I appreciate you guys so very much for that. Let me know what you guys think of this card. Let me know your predictions in the comments below. We're here to talk MMA, so let's fucking talk MMA. So, All the Smoke MMA show. I appreciate you guys. Thanks so very much for watching. We're in for a interesting card next weekend. Last night's was actually really fucking fun, to be honest. That shocked everybody, but I feel like it's always those like shit Apex cards that end up being kind of bangers. But I'm fucking rambling now. So thanks so very much for watching, guys. I appreciate y'all. All the Smoke MMA. Let me know what you think below, and I'll see you guys next time.